Hello and welcome back to the History of the Mongols. I'm your host Kyle. In our last episode, we discussed the remarkable campaign of Genghis Khan and his generals against the Jin Dynasty of northern China from 1211 to 1215. Genghis Khan's empire had been solidified through intense battles with the Jurchen state. Following the capture of the Jin capital in 1215, Genghis Khan returned home. While many conquerors might have rested on their achievements, Genghis Khan was driven by an unrelenting ambition. Even as his forces continued their battles in China, he dispatched other commanders to quell revolts, eliminate lingering enemies, and extend the economic power of the Mongol Empire. These actions inadvertently set the stage for conflict with the Khwarezmian Empire, a vast territory stretching from Central Asia's Transoxiana to western Iran. Today, we will examine the rebellion among the Siberian forest tribes, the fall of the Qara-Khitai, and the Otrar Massacre, events that preceded the Mongol invasion of Khwarezmia. Before delving deeper, it's important to note that the timeline between 1215 and 1219 can appear complex, primarily due to the rapid succession of events and the unfamiliar geography involved. Genghis Khan's capacity to coordinate multiple successful military operations simultaneously across such vast distances underscores the impressive capabilities of his army. With that in mind, let's dive into today's episode. In July 1215, Genghis Khan crossed the Gobi Desert to return to Mongolia, marking his first return north of the Gobi since 1211. With the Jin capital of Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing, captured just a month earlier, Genghis was confident his presence in China was no longer urgently needed. His trusted general Samuka continued the campaign against the Jin Dynasty in his absence. Samuka successfully maneuvered through Jin territories, crossing the Yellow River and approaching their new capital at Kaifeng, consistently outsmarting and defeating Jin forces. These relentless attacks prevented the Jin from reoccupying their lost cities, allowing Genghis Khan to focus on internal issues back home. However, his prolonged absence had unintended consequences. Previously, subdued peoples saw it as an opportunity to revolt. By 1216, rebellion had erupted among the forest tribes around Lake Baikal, north of Mongolia proper. These tribes had only recently been conquered and had grown increasingly restless during Genghis Khan's absence. The situation escalated due to the actions of one of Genghis's lieutenants, Korchi. Decades earlier, Korchi had secured favour with Genghis by prophesying his future triumph and had been promised 30 wives as a reward. In 1216, he travelled north to claim these women from the Tumed tribe near Lake Baikal. Upon arriving, Korchi bluntly demanded 30 women from the tribe, which was ruled by Bodoki Tarkan, the proud widow of their former chief. Deeply insulted by his arrogant demand, the Tumed captured Korchi, setting off further conflict. Genghis Khan was greatly displeased upon hearing about these events. Hoping to avoid sending an army deep into the Siberian forests, he initially dispatched Kuduka Beki, a trusted chief from the Oirat tribe, to diplomatically secure the release of Korchi. Unfortunately, this diplomatic mission also failed, resulting in Kuduka's capture. This escalated matters significantly, as Kuduka was not only a respected tribal leader, but also an imperial son-in-law, married to Genghis Khan's daughter, Chechiagan. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Genghis Khan first summoned Naya, a prominent general, who was unable to respond due to illness. Consequently, the responsibility fell to Boroqul, a highly respected leader within the Mongol hierarchy. Boroqul, one of Genghis Khan's closest confidants, had grown up under the care of Genghis's mother, Holun, and served as a high steward and commander in the imperial guard. His assignment to the mission underscored the seriousness with which Genghis viewed the rebellion. In early 1217, Boroqul led a small force into Tumed territory, perhaps overly confident following recent victories over the Jin Dynasty. However, during a scouting mission ahead of his main force, Boroqul was ambushed and killed by the Tumed, prompting the remaining Mongol soldiers to retreat. The loss deeply angered Genghis Khan. The rebellion soon expanded, threatening the stability of the empire's northern frontier, as various forest tribes, including the Kyrgyz, along the Yenisei River, began openly resisting Mongol rule. Initially inclined to personally lead a campaign to suppress these uprisings, Genghis Khan was persuaded otherwise by his trusted advisor, Boroqul. Instead, a carefully planned pincer attack was developed. General Dorbe Doksin was sent against the Tumed, while Jochi led forces against the Kyrgyz and other tribes to prevent coordinated resistance. Dorbe Doksin's strategic approach, taking unexpected paths through dense forests, allowed him to surprise and decisively defeat the Tumed during a feast. The victory was comprehensive. Both Kuduka Beki and Korchi were rescued. Kuduka married the captured Tumed leader, Bodoki Tarkan, and Korchi received his 30 promised maidens. Additionally, 100 Tumed warriors were executed in sacrifice to honor Boroqul, and many others were enslaved. Genghis Khan took the children of his fallen friend Boroqul into his household to raise personally. Simultaneously, Jochi's campaign was equally successful. Aided by Kuduka Beki's Oirat warriors, he subdued the Oirat, Buryat, Tuvan, and ultimately the Kyrgyz by early 1218. Securing control over the productive Yenisei River region significantly boosted Mongol resources and influence. This territory would later form the foundation for Jochi's inheritance and the establishment of the vast Golden Horde. However, these northern victories were only part of a broader Mongol strategy. Following Genghis Khan's unification of Mongolia in 1206, defeated adversaries such as the Naiman under Kuchlug, the son of Tayang Khan, and the Merkit led by Toktoa Beki had fled westward. In 1208, Mongol forces had decisively defeated these fleeing enemies near the Irtysh River. Toktoa, a personal enemy responsible for capturing Genghis' wife Borte decades earlier, was killed. His sons continued westward, while Kuchlug sought refuge in the Qara-Khitai Empire, located in today's eastern Kazakhstan and northwestern China, setting the stage for future conflicts. After their defeat, the remaining Merkit, led by Toktoa's son Kodu, fled westward to seek refuge with the Kangli, the eastern branch of the extensive Kipchak-Cuman Confederation. The Kipchak-Cumans consisted of various loosely connected Turkic tribes, inhabiting the vast Eurasian steppes stretching from the borders of Hungary eastward beyond the Aral Sea. Today, the Kipchak-Cumans are perhaps most famously remembered for their distinctive battle masks adorned with moustaches. Historical accounts vary regarding the exact timing of the campaign against the Merkit. Some sources associate it closely with earlier events, like the battle near the Irtysh River, while others place it nearer to the later invasion of Khwarezm. From the Mongol perspective, other steppe nomadic groups represented significant threats because, unlike sedentary opponents in China, nomadic groups could retreat and regroup indefinitely, potentially rallying behind a charismatic leader. The possibility that these tribes could unite under someone like Genghis Khan posed a real danger. Moreover, their independence directly challenged the Mongol claim to supremacy over the steppes. Harbouring enemies such as the Merkits effectively amounted to a declaration of war. With much of the Mongol army returning from campaigns in China, this period presented an optimal opportunity to decisively defeat the Merkits and also confront Kuchlug, who had fled to the Qara-Khitai Empire. This campaign around 1217 to 1218 is notably the first major military operation led by the renowned Mongol commander Subutai, though historical records are unclear whether he or Jochi held overall command. Uniting with Tokchar, the leader of the western vanguard, the Mongol forces advanced across the steppe into what is now western Kazakhstan. Near the Kem River, close to the northeastern shores of the Caspian Sea, Jochi and Subutai encountered and defeated the combined Merkit-Kangli forces. According to the Ming-era historical record Yuan Shi, detailing the history of the Mongol Yuan dynasty. Jochi and Subutai pursued the fleeing enemies westward between the Ural and Volga rivers, penetrating deeply into Qipchak territory, where they conclusively destroyed the remnants. During this pursuit, Kodu was killed, and his relative Kulkutan Mergen was captured, effectively ending the Merkit threat. Kulkutan Mergen is notable for an anecdote that reveals the complex relationship between Jochi and Genghis Khan. Among the Mongols, all were trained archers from an early age, yet Kulkutan Mergen stood out as exceptionally skilled. In an impressive display reminiscent of Robin Hood, Kulkutan shot arrows accurately into targets, subsequently splitting them precisely with subsequent shots. Delighted by this remarkable feat, Jochi sent a messenger to Genghis Khan, requesting mercy for Kulkutan's life. Genghis, however, held a deep-seated hatred for the Merkit, his long-standing adversaries, and was sensitive to persistent rumours questioning Jochi's parentage, suggesting he might be of Merkit descent himself. Genghis Khan's response, recorded by Rashid al-Din, was typically ruthless. "There is no tribe worse than the Merkit. We have fought so many battles with them and suffered untold trouble and difficulties on account of them. Why should he be left alive to cause trouble again? I have stored up all these realms, armies, and peoples for you. What need is there of him? For an enemy of the state, there is no place better than the grave." Consequently, Jochi executed Kulkutan and his family, illustrating the underlying tension between father and son that would grow over the following years. This incident has been interpreted to suggest Jochi was less ruthless than his father, though it also underscores Genghis Khan's fundamental belief: sparing an enemy only invites future danger. Had his own adversaries recognized this, Genghis might not have survived his tumultuous early years. Jochi and Subutai began their long return journey to Mongolia, but were unexpectedly interrupted in early 1219 by a confrontation with a substantial army led by the Khwarezm Shah Muhammad II of the Anushtegunid dynasty. Originating in the Khwarezm region south of the Aral Sea, under Shah Takish and his son Muhammad, the Khwarezmian Empire had expanded significantly, filling the power vacuum left by the collapsing Seljuks, Gurids, and Qara-Khitai. Muhammad, ruling since 1200, was known for his ambition, often styling himself the Second Alexander the Great. In 1217, he had unsuccessfully marched against the Caliph in Baghdad, was actively absorbing former Qara-Khitai territories, and harboured ambitions toward the steppe regions, the origin of many of his own troops and relatives. In early 1219, possibly seeking retaliation against Kangli raids or aiming to confront the Merkit himself, Muhammad's army unexpectedly encountered Jochi and Subutai's forces. Recognizing Genghis Khan's trade interests with Khwarezm, the Mongols requested safe passage. Shah Muhammad, distrustful and confident due to his superior numbers, chose to attack instead. Though heavily outnumbered, Jochi and Subutai fought bravely, and Jochi himself narrowly escaped death. With nightfall, the armies withdrew. The Mongols cleverly lit fires to make it seem they were settling down for the night, but under cover of darkness, they quietly retreated. When morning came, the Shah discovered an empty battlefield. The Mongols had fought more fiercely than he anticipated, inflicting severe casualties. This intense confrontation reportedly left the Shah deeply apprehensive about facing the Mongols in open combat, a fear that would significantly influence future events. Jochi and Subutai returned to Mongolia around late summer 1219, coinciding with important news reaching Genghis Khan. We'll revisit their story later. For now, we turn southeast, where other Mongol forces had been active. Kuchlug, the previously mentioned Naiman prince, fled to the Qara-Khitai Empire after his defeat on the Irtysh River in 1208. Established in the 1130s by Khitans fleeing the fall of the Liao dynasty to the Jurchen Jin, the Qara-Khitai were initially led by Yeludashi. His formidable cavalry quickly asserted dominance in Central Asia, overcoming both eastern and western Karakhanid rulers and decisively defeating Seljuk Sultan Sanjar in 1141 at the Battle of Katwan near Merv. Although significantly weakened, the Seljuk presence in Iran lingered for another 5 decades. Following these victories, Yelu-Dashi controlled a vast empire from the Tarim Basin to Khorasan. The Anushtegenids of Khwarezm, originally appointed by the Seljuks, became vassals to the Qara-Khitai. The Qara-Khitai Empire, known as Black Khitans or Black Cathay by the Mongols, presents a fascinating historical episode. Predominantly Buddhist with strong Chinese influences, their decentralized empire was governed by vassal kings under the supreme authority of the Gurkhan, the Khitan emperor. Notably, 2 of their 5 emperors were women, and their ethnically and religiously diverse territories frequently entertained ambitions of reclaiming northern China. However, under the prolonged and ineffective rule of Yelu-Jilugu, the empire stagnated. After Kuchlug fled to the Qara-Khitai in 1208, Gurkhan Jilugu welcomed him, seeing the Naiman prince as a useful ally against troublesome vassals like Muhammad Khwarezm Shah. Jilugu offered Kuchlug titles, favours, and even a marriage alliance with his daughter. Kuchlug repaid this generosity by raiding the empire's treasury during Jilugu's conflict with Muhammad. A series of chaotic battles followed, including an incident where Jilugu sacked his own capital after being refused entry. In 1211, Kuchlug betrayed and captured Jilugu, holding him captive until his death in 1213, after which Kuchlug seized power. However, he struggled to manage the complexities of ruling such a diverse and decentralized empire. Muhammad Khwarezm Shah quickly seized western territories, prompting conflicts with Kuchlug, who even challenged the Shah to single combat, a challenge the Shah wisely declined. Originally a Nestorian Christian, Kuchlug converted to an extremist form of Buddhism and began persecuting Muslim populations within his empire. His harsh actions alienated many, especially in the Tarim Basin, where he brutally executed an imam in Khotan and deliberately destroyed crops each year, starving rebellious populations into submission. In the northeast, near the Mongolian border, several vassals of the Qara-Khitai Empire pledged their loyalty to Genghis Khan. Among them was Otrar, a Karluk leader who had risen from a horse thief to rule Al-Malik. Upon declaring his loyalty, he married one of Jochi's daughters. In late 1215, Kuchlug attacked Al-Malik, killing Otrar. However, Otrar's widow successfully defended the city and managed to inform Genghis Khan. Outraged by the murder of his son-in-law and recognizing Kuchlug's usurpation of Qara-Khitai as a significant threat, Genghis dispatched his most capable general, Jebe Noyan, accompanied by Idikut Barchuk and Karluk Khan Arslan, in late 1216 to confront Kuchlug. Kuchlug's state quickly unravelled. After securing Al-Malik, Jebe pursued Kuchlug to Balasagun, the capital of Qara-Khitai, where Kuchlug was defeated but managed to escape. Jebe then entered Balasagun without resistance, as local leaders rapidly switched allegiance to the Mongols. Kuchlug fled through the mountains to the Tarim Basin, where his oppressive policies had made him deeply unpopular. As Jebe's forces entered the Tarim Basin, they issued a proclamation promising religious tolerance, a stark contrast to Kuchlug's harsh regime. This immediately triggered widespread revolts against Kuchlug's garrisons. Kuchlug was relentlessly pursued from city to city, many of which refused him entry. Eventually, he fled through the Pamir Mountains and the rugged region of Badakhshan, reaching the Wakhan corridor in northern Afghanistan. There, local hunters captured and handed him over to Jebe. Displaying Kuchlug's severed head as proof of victory, Jebe easily secured the submission of any remaining resistance. The conquest of Qara-Khitai concluded swiftly and peacefully, significantly expanding the Mongol Empire westward. Jebe returned triumphantly to Genghis Khan in 1219, bringing 1,000 chestnut horses with white muzzles, symbolic of the horse he had shot from beneath Genghis in their first encounter in 1202. An unforeseen consequence of this conquest was bringing the Mongol Empire into direct contact with the powerful Khwarezmian Empire. Shah Muhammad of Khwarezm had previously captured portions of western Qara-Khitai territory, only to see the remainder quickly fall under Mongol control. This placed him face to face with the rising Eastern Empire along his northern border. Yet despite these developments, conflict between the Mongols and Khwarezm was not inevitable. In fact, Genghis Khan initially sought to avoid war. Early contacts appeared promising. A Khwarezmian embassy visited Genghis in 1215 and was generously received, part of a broader Mongol policy aimed at encouraging trade through generous payments to merchants. With abundant silver acquired from northern China, the Mongols aimed to stimulate commerce, particularly the difficult trade routes leading into Mongolia. In 1218, Genghis sent his own embassy to reaffirm peaceful trade relations and friendship with Khwarezm. By this time, however, tensions had grown. Much of the Qara-Khitai Empire, previously a buffer state, had been dismantled by the actions of Shah Muhammad and Jebe. Muhammad, suspicious of Mongol intentions, looked for fault in the embassy led by Mahmud Khwarezmi, likely the same individual later known as Mahmud Yalavach under Ogedei Khan. When Genghis Khan's message indicated he considered the Shah equal in status to his own beloved sons, Shah Muhammad interpreted this as a severe insult, implying that Genghis viewed himself as superior. This perceived slight greatly angered the Shah, escalating tensions between the two empires. After their initial meeting, Shah Muhammad continued questioning Mahmud Khwarezmi, a native of Khwarezm, about the intentions of Genghis Khan. Mahmud reassured the Shah by minimizing the threat, portraying the Mongol armies as insignificant compared to Khwarezm's powerful military, and emphasized Genghis Khan's interest in trade rather than war. Temporarily pacified by this reassurance, Shah Muhammad remained cautious. This diplomatic mission preceded a larger trade caravan consisting of around 450 merchants and their attendants, carrying valuable goods. In late summer of 1218, the caravan reached the city of Otrar on the northeastern frontier of the Khwarezmian Empire. The city's governor, Inalchuk, who was Shah Muhammad's uncle, accused the merchants of espionage, confiscated their goods, and ultimately executed them, with only a single camel driver managing to escape. This rash and short-sighted decision, possibly influenced by Shah Muhammad or initiated independently by Inalchuk, carried grave consequences. Historians suggest the decision might have been instigated by Shah Muhammad's powerful mother, Turkan Khatun, who was Inalchuk's sister. Turkan Khatun, a strong-willed woman from the Kangli tribe, often openly defied her son's decisions and exercised considerable authority from the original Khwarezmian capital, Gurganj. Perhaps anticipating inevitable conflict with the rapidly expanding Mongols, she might have intended to force her son into decisive action. Despite the severity of the massacre at Otrar, it was not immediately the direct trigger for the Mongol invasion of Khwarezm. When the surviving camel driver informed Genghis Khan about the atrocity, the Khan was furious but initially hesitated to launch a full-scale invasion. At that time, his priority remained the ongoing conflict with the Jin Dynasty, and the formidable reputation of Khwarezm's army was also a factor. Recognizing the economic benefits of continued trade over immediate conquest, Genghis Khan sent another diplomatic mission in early 1219. This embassy, led by a Muslim who had previously served Muhammad's father along with two prominent Mongols, carried a straightforward message. Peace and resumed trade were possible if the Shah handed over Inalchuk for punishment. From the Mongol perspective, the incident was merely the fault of an irresponsible governor, not a deliberate act by the Shah himself. Shah Muhammad faced a critical dilemma. Refusing to surrender Inalchuk would inevitably lead to war with the Mongols. Conversely, handing over Inalchuk would antagonize the powerful Kipchak-Kangli factions within his administration loyal to his mother, Turkan Khatun, potentially destabilizing his rule. Choosing to side with his mother, Shah Muhammad made the fateful decision to execute the Muslim envoy, violating the most important diplomatic rule with the Mongols: never harm envoys. The Mongol envoys accompanying the diplomat had their beards shaved off in humiliation and were sent back to Genghis Khan, returning around the same time that Jochi and Subutai delivered news of their own hostile encounter with Shah Muhammad's forces. To Genghis Khan, the implications were clear. A powerful adversary on his western frontier had openly challenged Mongol authority. Ignoring this challenge would damage his reputation and leave his western territories vulnerable. With General Mukhali effectively managing the ongoing campaigns against the Jin, his northern borders secured, and remaining steppe rivals subdued by commanders like Jochi, Subutai, and Jebe, Genghis Khan mobilized his armies and commenced his devastating campaign against Khwarezm. Now that we have examined the events leading up to this critical conflict, join us in our next episode as we delve into the Mongol invasion of Khwarezm. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the history of the Mongols. If you could please take a moment of your time and like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment for me, as it helps out massively. Thank you, and see you all next time.